Coming up on Network Africa. The Rapid Support Forces accept 3 months truce in Sudan as armed forces reject offer amid global mediation efforts. Presidents of Mozambique and Brazil sign a raft of agreements as Brasilia vows support for Maputo in all areas. Plus, leaders from the European and African Union nations convene in Angola for the 7th AU-EU Summit. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Olarinde. Sudan's Rapid Support Forces say they will enter a 3-month humanitarian truce following peace talks with the Sudanese army. In a video speech, paramilitary Commander General Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo reiterated the group's commitment to the truce and urged mediators to pressure the military to accept the proposal. The mediators, known as the Quad countries of the US, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and United Arab Emirates, have spent more than 2 years trying to end the conflict and restore Sudan's democratic transition, which was disrupted by a 2021 military coup. However, on Monday, Sudan's top general Abdel Fattah al-Burhan rejected the ceasefire proposal, accusing the mediators of bias. The war in Sudan, which began in April 2023 as a power struggle between the military and the RSF, has claimed more than 40,000 people. A number of rights groups say is likely much higher and has displaced over 14 million. We're in Mozambique now, where Brazil's President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva is in Maputo for a 2-day working visit, where he has met with President Daniel Chapo to strengthen bilateral ties. President Lula's motorcade arrived at the presidential palace, where he was greeted by President Chapo before a ceremonial welcome on the red carpet. The two leaders have overseen the signing of multiple agreements covering civil aviation, agroforestry, health investments, and exports. President Lula praised the visit for coinciding with Mozambique's 50th anniversary of independence, calling it an opportunity to reflect on the country's shared journey. He says Brazil is back and ready to cooperate with Mozambique in industry, technology, agriculture, energy, and more. Mozambique's foreign minister also said Brazil could play a central role in the country's energy transition, infrastructure, industrial innovation, and especially in technology. This marks President Lula's 4th trip to Mozambique and his first in 15 years. The two countries share deep historical ties as former Portuguese colonies with a common language. Well, leaders from European and African Union nations have convened in Angola's capital, Luanda, for the 7th AU-EU Summit, marking 25 years of continued partnership. More than 80 dignitaries gathered for a group photo to officially launch the 2-day summit that's co-chaired by Angolan President João Lourenço and European Council President Antonio Costa. The summit is held under the theme of promoting peace and prosperity through effective multilateralism. It's the first in 3 years, bringing together leaders from both continents to strengthen cooperation. South Africa's President Cyril Ramaphosa, in his address, emphasized that a rules-based multilateral trading system remains essential for Africa's economic growth.
Inequality in global trade affects the world's most vulnerable, including countries that are already burdened by mounting sovereign debt, a sharp decline in exports, and cuts in overseas development assistance. These are issues that are addressed in the G20 Leaders Declaration adopted in Johannesburg over this past weekend. In the declaration, The leaders reaffirmed their commitment to support efforts by low and medium income countries to address debt vulnerabilities. When global trade systems are stable and predictable, it gives confidence to governments, assurance to exporters, and offers security to workers around the world. Such reform should be development-centered and address persisting development gaps in the global economy. Crucially, it must allow developing economies to adopt legitimate public policy measures that support value addition, industrialization, and diversification. We need to ensure that trade becomes a powerful instrument for inclusive, sustainable, and balanced growth.
Tanzania has cancelled next month's Independence Day celebrations. Prime Minister Mwigulu Nchemba has announced that the celebrations funds will be redirected to rebuild infrastructure damaged in recent election unrest. The decision comes as the opposition and civil groups have called for nationwide gatherings on December 9th to protest the killings that followed last month's disputed poll. Hundreds of people are said to have been killed in that crackdown. President Samia Suluhu Hassan won the election with 98% of the vote, a result the opposition described as a mockery of democracy. Observers of the election reported signs of manipulation and serious failings in democratic standards. The government imposed the 5-day internet blackout starting on that election day and warned citizens against sharing photos of the protests. The new climate change deal means different things to different countries, groups, regions, and geopolitical zones. While it did not provide the adequate finance developing countries need to cope with the impacts of climate change, it provides a just transition action mechanism, which is a recognition that the global move away from fossil fuels will not abandon workers and frontline communities. Our correspondent Ayola Kasim looks at the wins and losses in the outcome of the UN climate conference that held in Belém, Brazil.
Overcoming many setbacks, first the uncomfortable heat in the conference venue, then the security breach by the indigenous people into the restricted zone. This prompted a tightened security at COP30 and the fire that ended activities at the pavilions a day earlier than scheduled. The COP finally presents the world with the Brazilian concept of mutirão, the concept of a joint effort working together. For about 3 weeks, Belém was buzzing. First, the Leaders' Summit, where the Brazilian president declared that this is the cup of truth.
That I deeply regret.
The truth that comes out of COP30 is that Belém has left the world divided. But analysts believe this spurred momentum on key issues that will continue beyond the conference. COP30 was meant to be an implementation COP. That is according to the COP presidency. Negotiators were expected to pin down tools, indicators, and processes to turn aspirations into action.
Phase out fossil fuels.
88 countries pushed for a roadmap for a just transition away from fossil fuels in the final deal. This group wants a just, equitable, and fully financed transition away from fossil fuels, reflected in the text. This is where the use of language matters in the text. It is an essential response to the ambition gap. They did not get what they want. They made their feelings known during the closing plenary.
This is not a statement that we're asking to be put on the report. It's an objection.
For civil society groups, the Just Transition Mechanism stands as the major achievement of COP30. The Just Transition Mechanism, popularly known as the Belém Action Mechanism, or BAM, opens what is described as promising discussions on support for just transition pathways. That is a clear reference to additional grant-based finance and recognition of the barriers that prevent just transition efforts.
Ensuring that national structure, economic reality are also respected.
But it is a different case for adaptation finance. The obligations of developed countries to provide finance was lacking, and pushing the timelines to deliver the tripling of finance to 2035 is said to be a betrayal of vulnerable and impacted communities in the Global South.
This is not technical. This is about our survival.
In all, everyone has something to cheer or complain about in this deal, which brings attention to the COP process, because it is a multilateral process and there needs to be a consensus. Some say it gives incentives for lobbyists to stall the process. So the civil society groups are calling for more accountability, transparency, concrete outcomes, and not just what they describe as a cycle of dialogues, roadmaps, and reports in the process. From Berlin, Brazil, Ayola Kasim, Channels Television News.
Well, the UK, Australia and Canada have launched a joint international campaign to tackle visa fraud and protect Nigerians from exploitation by fraudulent immigration agents. In a statement, the British High Commission in Abuja said the initiative tagged #Fighting Visa Fraud has been unveiled during the International Fraud Awareness Week. These three countries say the campaign aims to raise awareness about the serious consequences of visa fraud, adding that they have identified recurring patterns of deception affecting their immigration systems. According to the statement, visa frauds cost victims millions of pounds every year and exposes vulnerable people to exploitation, financial loss and potential legal troubles. The High Commission has warned that anyone found involved in such fraud risks severe penalties, including 10-year travel bans, visa refusals, financial loss with no compensation, criminal charges in some countries, and even dangers linked to exploitation and trafficking. The Economic Department of the French Embassy in Nigeria has hosted a conference in Lagos titled From Makers to Markets, Building Circular Innovation. The event brought together designers, entrepreneurs and sustainability experts to explore new ways of turning waste into value, with strong support from French Tech Lagos. French designer and researcher Marjorie Hubert led the discussion, highlighting Lagos' daily waste challenge of over 13,000 tons, especially plastics. She explains how Fab Labs, equipped with tools like 3D printers and laser cutters, help innovators turn ideas into market-ready solutions, citing a French air purification system born in the Fab Lab. Hubert also spotlighted Le Pave, a French company converting 100% recycled plastic into durable panels for furniture and design, proposing a Lagos-based Fab Lab model that would connect recyclers, makers and digital fabrication experts that will transform plastic and organic waste into new products and jobs. Well, this conference also reinforced France's commitment to the Franco-Nigerian collaboration in sustainability and circular innovation.
What we're trying to show here is that there are resources, human resources, there are facilities, there are spaces, and there are also material resources, which are waste, and there is an issue with it. So it's not even that we have something available, it's available, but also it causes issues locally. So I think there is a real urge to use this material, to use this resource, and to use also like the energy of the people here to make something concrete with it. Because there are a lot of recycles, it generates economy, like people are, it's made informally, so it means that, you know, people are ready, they are doing it. What do we do next? How do we use this material? There is an urge to use it and to find ways and markets, and to also change mentality to say, yes, recycled material is this, it can be used for the same type of products today, and it's cheaper. So in the end, it's everyone is you know, a winner about on this situation, about this context. So there is a real opportunity for me, I see here.
Let's take a break now on the program. Still to come. Nigeria unveils a 5-year security plan, pivoting to domestically led policies amid growing international pressure. To give you more details after the break, please join us again. Welcome back to the program. In a renewed effort to combat insurgency and address emerging security challenges across Nigeria, the federal government, through the Office of the National Security Advisor, has launched a new 5-year strategic plan. Speaking at the official unveiling of the document in Abuja, the President of the Senate, Godswill Akpabio, says Nigeria will not yield to agents of destabilization determined to undermine the nation's peace.
And support for this noble cause.
The fight against terrorism is receiving a boost as security experts, legislators and members of the diplomatic community converge on the conference hall of the National Counter-Terrorism Center for the official unveiling of a 5-year strategic plan. At the official unveiling of the center's 2025 to 2030 strategic plan, the national coordinator of the center emphasized the urgency of a coordinated regional response.
This strategic plan is a product of extensive research, interagency collaboration, and consultations across government ministries, security institutions, academia, civil society, and our international partners.
On its part, the African Union believes the strategic plan aligns with the vision of the Union to silence guns.
At the African Union, we see this initiative as fully aligned with our continental priorities. It supports the African Union Master Roadmap of practical steps for silencing the guns, the African Peace and Security Architecture, and the Continental Strategic Plan of Action on Preventing and Countering Violence Extremism. Nigeria's leadership is therefore both national and continental.
With Nigeria's resilience remaining firm, even as terrorists evolve in tactics and technology, the President of the Senate insists the nation will not succumb to agents of destabilization.
A promise that insecurity will not define our national identity. A promise that Nigeria can, West Africa can, and will definitely turn the page. They promise that together we can build a secured and united and prosperous West Africa with Nigeria leading.
The strategic plan charts a 5-year roadmap to transform the center into a regional center of excellence. It outlines a new intelligence-driven era from drone surveillance and regional operations center to advanced training institutions and simulation facilities for crisis response.
Contributions from Africa's rich talent pool to the global sports and creative economy is yet to deliver expected returns on the continent. This is the sentiment of a select number of key players and stakeholders who believe the Gulf region plays a key role in connecting investors to the industries on the continent. Our correspondent Mayowa Adegoke captures this and more in this next report.
Africa's creative and sports economies, the migration of talent, and underfunding on the continent are key themes of discourse at the first edition of Courtside Capital in UAE's Abu Dhabi.
If I might invite, we have His Excellency in the room.
In the room are multinational stakeholders from across sports, culture, art, fashion, and music, all here with one agenda.
Capital is a big part of what we do. We want to drive capital onto the continent. We want to drive investment into the continent. And having the conversation using the Gulf region, specifically the UAE, as that launch pad, that's what we hope happens from these conversations, that deals happen, that strategic partners happen, and collaborations.
I think whenever you're able to convene a group of people who have like interests, they can share information and then figure out how they too can become involved or better engaged.
With these industries projected to surpass $50 billion in value by 2030, experts express concerns around talent development, investment in infrastructure, and private sector engagement, which are essential for progress.
We have to develop sports at its initial stages of the youngsters, which is school sports.
What is the Africa private sector really doing? How many jobs can General Electric create in Nigeria? How many jobs can IBM create in Kenya? But yet, we have millions of young people who are being left behind, and so the private sector's role is extremely critical when it comes to these conversations. And I think initiatives like this sort of drive the attention to it to make sure that they're part of the conversation.
Organizers of the event are keen on bridging the gap between industry and investment, leveraging the UAE's global attraction as a platform to create synergy between Africa, its diaspora, the West, and the Gulf region. From Dubai in the United Arab Emirates, Maya Wadegoki for Channels Television News.
The Nigerian Institute of International Affairs has held an evening of music and tributes in honor of the late Joy Ogwu, a former Minister of Foreign Affairs and the former Director General at the Institute. The tribute was also syndicated at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. Here in Lagos, former ambassadors and staff of the NIIA recalled special moments of how she impacted their lives and created a friendly and respectable environment at work. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent Amarachi Ubani reports.
A mother, a friendly colleague, and a caring boss. These are the words that characterized the evening of tributes for late former Minister of Foreign Affairs and former Director General of the Nigerian Institute of International Affairs, Professor Joy Ogwu. As former ambassadors, colleagues, family and friends recalled memories of encountering with her.
Commissioner to Canada, 2003.
Kickstarting the tributes at the NIIA is Director General Professor Hossa Osaye, who told of how Professor Ogwu recommended him for high-profile jobs.
Had recommended me for a position. It was the first time at the Nigerian Institute for Policy and Strategic Studies that they thought of having the position of Deputy Director General. But this was to begin with, the position of the Director of Studies. And a gentleman came to my office at the University of Ibadan, and he said to me, I have this letter from the DG. I looked at the letter, I asked him a few questions. I thought this was very great. But after speaking to him for 5 minutes, I said to him, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to take this position. And she said to me, I told them, you are a very difficult person, she said to me. I told them you were not going to take it. So I apologized to her and I said, you should have told me, ma. For you and for you alone, I would have taken that position.
Colleagues such as Ambassador Enahon Imohe, former chairman, Presidential Committee on Small Arms and Light Weapons, who was represented by Marilyn Akpofure of the Institute, and former Nigerian High Commissioner to Canada, Ambassador Lufemi George, referred to her as a humble colleague whose attitude never changed when she was made Minister of Foreign Affairs.
Despite her extraordinary academic and career achievements, she remained humble, warm, and homely. She was a loving wife to a beloved husband, a devoted mother to her adorable children, and an affectionate and trusted advisor to countless mentees within and beyond her work environment.
She really adequately represented the interests of Nigeria, and I'm sure that she will herself be proud that she did her best for Nigeria.
From the Institute, former colleagues said she was a mother who took care of everyone, encouraged them to achieve their dreams, and made the NIIA beautiful with her love for flowers.
I was the secretary of the sanitation committee, and if anything happened, she will hold me. She will say, Ngozi, Gabino, where were you? With Auntie Agatha Ude then. So as a secretary to this standing committee, I can testify that her method was that of do as I do. Because as we are cleaning the environment, Joy Ogwu is uprooting the grasses with our hands.
She said, what's your name again? I said, FM Obi. She now looked at me and said, how old are you? And I told her my age, but I'm not going to say it here. She now said, wow, you look like my last son. I've never seen the son. I don't know how he looks like. And she said, FM, don't go away. You're going to pick your letter today. So I waited. Then when we resumed as staff of the NIA, fortunately, one day, her son came. She sent for me. And I came. And I saw him. We look exactly alike.
The only representative of the late Professor Joy Ogwu's family, Ndidi Adiohun, spoke lovingly about her.
In Nigeria today, where there are very few servant leaders, she embodied servant leadership, and not many people talked about her spirituality. Her spirituality was amazing. That is what I think fueled her in doing so many groundbreaking things, the idea that God propelled her to do so many things, and she was just an amazing, ethical servant leader.
Punctuated by hymns and anecdotes, the atmosphere at the NIA was one of warmth and bittersweet, as they said a farewell to a woman they also referred to as a stallion. Amarachi Ubani, Channels Television News.
May her gentle soul rest in peace. And as we end the program today, here's a fun fact about the continent. Did you know that Morocco is the home to the world's oldest continuously operational university? That's the University of Al Qarawiyyin, which was part of the Qarawiyyin Mosque, founded in 859. It was built by Fatima Al-Firi, the daughter of a wealthy refugee who used her inheritance to build the institution dedicated to learning, which has been teaching students for over 1,100 years. So next time you think of the world's oldest university, remember it's not in Europe, but it's in Morocco, here in Africa. And that's it on the program for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Olarinde.